Welcome to another episode of Bourbon and Rum. This is a podcast of two brothers from opposite ends of the spectrum. My name's Kent. I'm a rum drinker, and I'm from the left side of the aisle.
And I'm Kyle. I like bourbon, tend to be a little more conservative. Join us as we explore this experiment. Can two brothers from different sides of the political spectrum have a civil conversation and celebrate our differences?
What are you drinking?
Well, I cracked a bottle of Early Times. No, not the plastic bottle version of Early Times. This is Early Times bottled in bond, which a pretty reasonable price. But we've talked about the bottle in bond thing. The nice thing is, it's 100 proof, at least 4 years aged, and it's pretty good. It's like the standard rack Early Times is. I don't even know if it's characterized as bourbon. I mean, it is just like this swill of a whiskey. I don't know if you ever had the real Early Times, but
I've actually consumed, in my early years, consumed quite a few bottles of Early Times.
Okay, so you're a connoisseur of Early Times. Yeah, it's way different. It actually tastes like real bourbon. It's pretty good, and it's $30 a bottle or something like that.
Cool.
What are you drinking on?
I'm drinking one I've had before on the show, Dos Madeiras. It's a Spanish rum from Spanish North America, from Latin America. And then it's aged in sherry barrels from Spain, from Jerez, Spain. And so it's really good. It's kind of sweet, but super smooth. It's really nice. Makes a nice sipper on ice.
Where'd you pick that up?
It was a gift from a sister-in-law / listener.
Oh, nice. Speaking of listeners, I think we picked up a middle schooler, friend of one of my daughters. We were talking about the podcast. She's like, "Oh, I'm interested in that." So we're getting them from all ages.
Well, we welcome all of our new listeners, and we're grateful for all of our previous listeners.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you followed the podcast closely, we had a conversation last weekend anticipating what might happen with the U.S.'s involvement in Iran. And I think it was no longer than an hour after we wrapped taping that the newsflash came that we had dropped bombs over there, which means that even as we were yakking about it, the B-2s had been in the air for a day and a half or something.
Yeah, they'd passed over us already, right?
Well, give me your read on that.
Well, like I said, I wasn't sure of the right path. Honestly, I was kind of debating it myself of, well, do you take the chance when you can do it? Does this open up a Pandora's box? Are we going to get sucked into some Middle Eastern war? But so far, it seems to have been overall relatively beneficial and not too harmful. I mean, they launched an attack on us, but it was a pretty weak attack, which it almost is a little odd in that it was almost like it seemed like it was a obligatory attack or something. They even called and warned ahead of time. So it's an odd response, I thought. Clearly, there's a lot of debate about the effectiveness, and I don't think anybody really knows until we get some human intelligence on the ground. And I tend to trust the Israeli intelligence because I think they've obviously invested a lot of time and people and energy, and it was good that they agreed to a ceasefire. So I thought that was a positive too. So, I mean, ideally, the rule of the Ayatollah is weakened and the opposition strength increases and sane minds take over. But I don't know. Hard to say if that's going to happen. What do you think?
Well, look, I have been roundly critical of Trump at virtually every juncture thus far. This is one that I can't complain about or argue with. I don't know that I would have done it, but it kind of seems like a free pass. Israel started this. I'm not blaming Israel, but this was an ongoing thing. In my mind, the test will be two things. One, I hope there was some real damage done. Although the more I think about that, I'm just going to pause. Well, I'm going to come back to that. I hope that meaningful damage was done and it set the regime back and it reduces the chance of us having to anytime soon deal with a nuclear equipped Iran. The other thing is that you knew they were going to hit back. I don't think that immediate strike is the only thing they're going to do. I think that we are ripe for terror attacks and all kinds of things that are likely to come down the pike. The whole thing is going to be made or lost if when and if something bad happens in response to this, that Trump has the discipline to say, yeah, I'm not taking the bait and I'm not going to get sucked into an escalating conflict in Iran. We don't need that. If we can effectively drop things from B-2s, by the way, which I don't know whose thought this was, but the fake out that they were moving some B-2s to forward deployment, and meanwhile they went around the other side of the world and thumped them. I mean, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
If we can do stuff like that at very, very, very low risk to American personnel and munitions, and it makes a difference, and we avoid getting sucked into the thing, then I have no argument with that. But I do worry, how does this play out? So back to what I was going to say about degrading their capability. I don't know enough about the politics of Iran, but it almost makes you wonder, especially that kind of anemic response that we got. I mean, I've said this isn't really comparable, but I said all along that Biden's staff or somebody on Biden's staff knew that they needed to get that debate in early to, they needed to get that handled and get Biden out of the race. I wonder if someone's like, wouldn't a rational person in Iran think that, if we would just give up this nuclear crap, we could probably do pretty well in the world. Like they're a large country, they're a large market, they're a rich country with oil. Like what if they were not a threat of weapons of mass destruction? What might that mean for them on the global stage? We talked about it last time that maybe this is their only hope, but I think that's one worldview. Maybe somebody says, yeah, oh, yeah, you got us, and we're not able to do it anymore. This is a large enough country that the leadership needs some air cover, no pun intended, with their own population. They're not going to be able to just say to their population, remember we said all these years it was imperative that we develop a nuclear weapon? We're walking away from that. And maybe this gives them some deniability with their own people.
Yeah. I mean, I think I would bet you if you polled 99% of the country of Iran thinks it would be a great idea to drop the nuclear weapon and join the world community. But it's the jackass running the show that is trying to hang on to power. And that's the only thing I think about, like, and I would, I'm not going to rule out terrorist attacks and such, but like, it doesn't seem like the run of the mill Iranian is ready to strap bombs to his chest and blow stuff up in the name of the Ayatollah. It's like, if anything, it seems like the run of the mill guy wants to find a way to rebel against the Ayatollah. So I don't get the sense that like the populace is ideologically aligned with the guy. The guy's a brutal dictator and he's got a iron grip on the place. But I mean, the thought of a bunch of his henchmen out there blowing themselves up just seems unlikely. Not to say it won't happen.
Well, I obviously I hope you're right. I'm just saying, whatever it is, whatever the downstream of this is, we do not need a war with Iran.
No. Well, and I think, I mean, again, they launched an attack. Trump was like, yeah, we're good. And I think the administration was pretty clear, like, we're not at war. We just bombed the shit out of them. We're not at war. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, no, we got no problems with you. We're not at war. We're just going to blow your stuff up. But, no, we're fine.
Well, I mean, it is different bombing a nuclear weapons factory than it is, a suburban neighborhood
Right.
like the Russians are doing in Ukraine.
Or the Iranians are doing in Israel. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, good. I hope that's what that is, and I hope it made a meaningful difference.
Yeah. You just, we talk about that before. Like, we have no problem with the people. But I mean, we do kind of have a problem with people. We want the people to take responsibility and get rid of the jerks. But I mean, it's easier said than done.
Yeah, I don't know. Kind of that macro question, right? I am not a fan of trying to bring regime change on other countries, even bad countries, right? You don't know when you draw from the deck, you don't know what card you're going to pull. Uh, and the devil that you know has some advantages over the devil that you don't. But yeah, I kind of wish that people would rise up and say they're not going to take that stuff anymore. It it's a real mistake, and I think this happens a lot in politics. You know, everybody talks about going down this path. Hitler, that Hitler was so bad, and Hitler was really bad. Do not misunderstand. But it's not like there was this one bad guy and he took an entire country down the drain.
Everybody else was a
And
wonderful person.
right, I mean they were just good neighbors and nice, polite people, kept to themselves. Like, really?
Right.
And I think that
Joseph Mengele would have just been a run of the mill guy if not for Hitler. Right. Okay.
yeah. So, but this is the thing that we do, right? We hyper personalize things, and as if like that one person, if you, it, I gotta say, there's always this kind of thought experiment, right? Like if you'd have had the chance to shoot Hitler in the head in 1927, would you have done it?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that capping Adolf Hitler before he rises to power, I am not at all sure that that means like, oh, dodged a bullet, no World War II.
Yeah.
Like, these things are macro geopolitical issues, and if it hadn't been Hitler, it might not have unfolded exactly the same way. But Germany was not going to toil under the demands of the Treaty of Versailles forever. Like that
Yeah.
just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. Somebody was going to step up and lead them and potentially at a dangerous path, if not for.
Well, or could there have been a better way? Could there have been a charismatic leader who called to the attention of the world that this is a ridiculous thing that you've put us under? You're harnessing all of this whole nation behind it. Let's put our bygones behind us and move on. And like I don't know how that would have played out, but I think it's a fallacy to say that this one dude and all of World War II just follows. Even the anti-Semitism and the final solution thing, yeah, Hitler was behind that. He was an enthusiast of that, but he didn't do any of the dirty things in that. And so I think it's just a myth to say that, oh, just take care of that one guy. And I guess that would be my pushback on you. Yeah, I think the Ayatollah is a mess.
Yeah, I guess I would mean, no, that's a good point. It's not just the dictator, but he certainly has an entourage of yahoos propping him up too, the whole governmental structure. But you do wonder about situations like that. Like, okay, if we knock out the Ayatollah, are we just going to get Ayatollah Jr. in charge, or are they all afraid of the Wicked Witch? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like Saddam Hussein, I don't know that there was his sons who were sociopaths, but I don't know that they were capable of leading. I mean, some of these dictators, they do seem like a cult of personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Hard to tell if that would do it. It seems like it'd be a good start.
Right. And don't get me wrong. I'm not like, oh, well,
Yeah.
No, we have no beef with the Ayatollah. It's the people of Iran that
Yeah, that's right.
I don't think that. But I think it's more complicated than that. And most of this stuff, I don't know. This is that age-old debate. Do the men make the times or the time make the men?
Right.
I will update that to say, does the person make the times or do the times make the person? Do you have a philosophy on that kind of whole classic go round?
I don't. I never really thought through it that much.
So the argument is essentially what we're talking about, right? Does the heroic individual, heroic, I mean lowercase h, like hero, anti-hero,
Yeah, yeah.
evil, whatever, but can one person steer the ship and turn the tide of history, or are we all kind of passengers and pawns in the deal?
Is it more of a
And
Ouija board?
I think that the truth is probably obviously some of both, but I tend to lean towards systemic explanations of things like that. I do tend to be more of a times make the person. I think people are somewhat random in the roles that they play. And yeah, so yeah, I tend to be kind of like, if it wasn't Adolf Hitler, the bullied corporal from World War One, Germany was not going to labor under the Treaty of Versailles
Yeah.
for very long.
Yeah, it was kind of set up for that personality. But I do think there are certain personalities in history that pop up that are exceptional, either in a good or bad way. But like you said, maybe they wouldn't be exceptional in another time.
So I'm reading an interesting book, and I'm not going to recommend it because I think the author's kind of a jerk. I mean, he's kind of obnoxious. But the book is about randomness and probability and the idea. I'm going to have a hard time explaining the thesis, but the idea is we look at history and it already happened. And so it's difficult for us to look at history with the lens of all of the potential outcomes of what could have happened in that circumstance. And for that reason, we say Alexander the Great was a great general because I mean, he conquered the whole middle part of the world. He left from Macedonia and winds up in India and just took out everybody along the way. And we say, well,
All by
you know,
like the age of 30.
yeah. And we say, oh, well, Alexander must have been just a great general, like just a genius, some kind of military genius. But it might have been, I mean, it's not impossible that it was a series of coincidences, that the Persians were having some kind of internal struggle and he gets to the Syrians and he's just rolling along filling a vacuum of places that aren't there. And if three things had been different in the whole world, Alexander would have gotten to the Bosporus and said, "No, you're done here. Go home." And so, but we ascribe to that heroic nature because he won. But what we don't consider is what were the chances that he would have won, and is it really due to his genius that we read it that way? Because in history, like I mean, he did conquer the world by the time he was, I think, 32 when he died.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, I don't know. To me, you can't ascribe all those successes either to the individual or to luck. I mean, it's a bit of both. You can't say
Yes.
it's purely luck, it's all random, and anybody else could have done it. He probably brought unique things to the table that nobody else could have, but he got a hell of a lot of lucky breaks too. I don't know. I can't say you can't think it's just one way or the other. To say everything completely random and doesn't matter in the individual, I think is I think that's a stretch in my mind.
I would agree, and I'm not arguing that it's all or none. I do think that we undervalue the randomness and the luck side of things. The book
Yeah.
actually is not so much about Alexander or Julius Caesar or Genghis Khan. Were we talking about that? That you see this? That Genghis Khan's DNA is like all over, like his personal DNA is all over the world. Like he had like thousands of offspring or something, like just a
Wow.
ridiculous number.
The Wilt Chamberlain of his time.
Although Wilt was a basketball player, not a leader of a horde and murderer of nations.
Yeah, true.
But actually, the book talks more about business success. And we tend to lionize and idolize business executives who are successful. And clearly, there are people that are capable and successful and do great things in business. But some of it, Steve Jobs, right, is the example that people give. He's just this visionary mastermind, saw the future, built it, and everything was there. If Steve Jobs doesn't start Apple in his garage with Wozniak, there were probably other people building stuff in garages.
Instead of the iPhone, everybody be glued to Samsungs, and if you were on an iPhone, we'd look down on you like we look down on you, Android people. Kent.
Really?
Yes.
Well, if
the text shows up in another color, it's like you're one of those people.
Well, technical people would argue that Android's like 6 steps ahead of Apple in terms of what they do. Apple waits for Android to innovate, and then they dumb it down and adopt it 3 versions later.
Well, let's apply that philosophy, though, to Trump, and both on the right and the left, people say he's an exceptional person. I mean, the right obviously thinks exceptionally good. The left is obviously exceptionally bad, and nobody else would be this big of a jerk as this guy. But is it a reflection of the time? Things like the whole wokeism and politically correctness, did things get to a tipping point where somebody who was really outspoken became desirable in a way that they wouldn't have been desirable before? That would be interesting to kind of pull on, what are those conditions that created a candidacy like his possible, and could it have been somebody else?
At risk of linking Trump to Alexander the Great or Genghis Khan, I'm kind of not in favor of either of that, but yeah, I was actually thinking about that very thing, because I do think that Trump is a unique individual. By any measure, he is not comparable to any other politician in the United States in recent memory. He is an anomaly. But if it weren't him, would we have found another anomaly? And I think absolutely. Again, I'm going to come with that times make the man thing. The other likelihood, when Trump was first running in 2015 and 2016, the other candidate that was really making a run at that time, do you recall? Senator Bernie Sanders from Vermont.
Yeah.
Who couldn't be more different than Trump on many, 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 many dimensions, but there is a plain spokenness about Sanders that doesn't sound like Trump, but it also doesn't sound like the usual bullshit. So Trump doesn't sound like the bullshit that we've always had, and neither did Bernie Sanders. Couldn't be more different, but I think it's instructive.
They both have challenging hairdos as well.
Yeah, Sanders spends less on product than Trump does.
Did you see Sanders on Rogan this week?
No, I did not.
Yeah, it was interesting.
I usually am a couple days late. I watched that other our competitor podcast.
Yeah, that's right.
Joe Rogan. He's who we're like. He's the
right.
we're nipping at his heels with this. But yeah, no, I think Bernie Sanders, and I look at myself, right? Like, I could easily have voted for Bernie Sanders, but I got to tell you that politically, in terms of actual policy, Bernie is way left of where I am. Way left of where I am. But I like the frankness. I like the lack of BS. I like the transparency and the calling it like he sees it. And if you don't agree with him, that's fine. But when that guy talks, that he is speaking exactly on how he reads the situation.
Well, it was funny too, because And if you see it, I mean, there were a few instances where he got his facts a little bit bungled, or, he made a point and Rogan wasn't trying to argue with him, but I don't think necessarily, but there were a few times when it got a little bit like, I don't know, he didn't seem to know what the hell he was talking about, but like he rolls with it. And I think part of that is like, I don't think, and I think what people like about Trump, probably what they like about Bernie Sanders, they're not perfect in a political space. Like you can find plenty of flaws and screw ups, but to your point, the authenticity is refreshing because it's not all like a practice soundbite. Like he's thought about, like some of these people, like the talking point that they're spewing out is something that's been tested with, 6 different public relations firms versus just somebody slinging it with it, how they think of the world. And that's, I agree.
I think it's interesting to imagine what does that mean for when's the next go around, 28? These keep coming up. I keep getting older and these elections keep coming up.
I kind of think like your whole view on that, like from that book, I think that has implications for the other side. If you're trying to run against Trump, if you make it too much about, well, it's this guy and he's a jerk and he's an anomaly, I think that's the part you're going to miss, because if, to your point, if your hypothesis is correct and it's not about him, it's just like the conditions were set for that type of an individual, well, then that's more problematic. If you're going at this like, no, this guy's a jerk and we got to get rid of the jerk. If the conditions are there for that, like that changes how you need to combat that, doesn't it?
100%. And that, I think you'd find that's consistent with other positions that I've taken. I've been frustrated with the Democratic Party. There's an atrophy that's happened. Trump has made it so easy to hate on him that it's easy to forget, oh, we actually need a better idea, rather than just saying, like, even people that vote for Trump, not you, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but a lot of people that voted for him wouldn't want to hang out with him. Like, like it's not like there are people that love him, and I don't understand that. But there are a lot of people that made a rational choice for a disruptive candidate.
Well, what's funny about that, though, is I hearken to that Bill Maher dinner with Trump. I think the real Trump is probably somebody you don't be okay with hanging out with. The Trump you see on TV isn't the person you want to hang out with. And I think, that's part of the bigger thing.
We can go off on that. I find the guy repugnant across the board. I will tell you the disqualifying thing, the thing that puts me over the edge and that I will never get over and never forget is the vilification of immigrants. I have immigration in my family, and I cannot forgive the way that he talks about immigrants and lumps them all together. They're murderers. I can't get over that. But anyway, to your point, I think it's a good point, and I think it's something the Democrats really need to think long and hard about. If we don't speak to the disaffection of young adult males in this country, if we don't acknowledge that a lot of what we're experiencing is pushback from what was at least perceived to be, I think it's a little overblown, but that the whole world has gone woke, and insofar as woke as being considerate of other people and tolerant of other people's views, I'm kind of like,
but it's not. That's the complaint about woke. Woke is intolerance. Woke is like censorship. That's the part that pisses me off about woke. Like, hey, I'm
that's okay true. There is some of that. But and that's a problem, and that needs to be dialed back. And that's the reckoning Democrats have to have. But I'm kind of aghast that the response to that is like, oh, okay, we're going to take a bunch of people's rights away. I just don't. Well, the attempt. We don't have to go down this path. But if you don't think, if you were a gay or lesbian person in this country who was married and you were worried about your marriage, you're not reading the paper.
Yeah, I don't get that, because Trump has a the highest ranking gay married man in his administration of any administration in history.
I'm not talking about Trump. I'm talking about the Republican broader response, and I'm talking about at the state level. That's where this is a threat. I agree with you. Trump's not personally a threat to that, but that's another issue. But yeah, back to your point, you're right. We've got to deal with that. I scratch my head on this. I said this the day after the election. I'm like, honest to God, my life's pretty good. I think the economy's fine. I'm doing okay. Like everything seems great to me. I don't and I'm trying. I've tried hard to understand. I don't really get why people are so pissed that they want to roll the hand grenade into the place. I don't understand that, but I can't deny that it's true. And so I got to come to grips with that.
Well, I mean, it also, like we've said, I think we both are at we're in blessed stages of our lives and our jobs. My view of people and their struggles is, it's skewed. I'm older guy and, make pretty good living. And like, I'm with you. I don't have many complaints. I'm pretty happy with things, but I know other folks are not as fortunate.
Let me change gears a little bit. We talked about it a little bit in the past. Senate is poised to pass this bill.
Come on, can't say it.
$5 trillion.
No, you got to say the big, beautiful bill.
With that, big stinking pile of crap. Is that the one you're referring to?
Yes, the continuation of the crappy bills that Biden had. I agree.
Well,
no better. You're not going to get a single complaint out of me, Ken. I think it's a complete travesty. I think we had to cut $2 billion from the budget, and I think the $2 billion. We should cut $2 trillion out of this budget and put our money where our mouth is, and they didn't. I think it's awful. I don't like it at all.
Who do you think is? I mean, what's the problem? Is it that anybody who goes to Washington gets corrupt, and even these idealistic Republicans, the machine just grinds them down?
No, I think it's nobody at any level is willing to really make the hard choices. The wasteful spending in USAID. Okay. Not many people are wanting to study condom usage and, some far off, whatever they are, these funky things. Like that's easy. And it's hard nobody's going to fall on their sword for that. But to your point, hey, you know what? The B-2s work pretty damn good. We're going to cancel the B-21 bomber program. Oh my gosh. Everybody in the right and left would just would lose their, what.
Right.
But that's the case. We can't buy every stinking thing we want. And because we owe so much money in interest and so much money in Social Security and everything else, Social Security is another one. I mean, if somebody had a, dose of realism, they'd say, and honestly, I don't know why Trump doesn't do it. He's a lame duck president. Tell everybody the retirement age just went to 70. You talk about a politically unpopular decision, but we can't afford it.
That's the Social Security age is 100% the easiest, fairest fix for this. And you don't have to say to people that are 65 right now, oh, we just moved the goalposts 5 years on you. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. You could tell the 30-year-olds that you're going to have to work till you're 72. And actuarially, that fixes it. This is not that hard.
Again, I would invest however much it costs, a couple $100 billion, make semaglutide or whatever the hell the new drug is, make that free for every human being and say, okay, the good news is y'all are going to live to your 80, 85 easy. So that means you're going to need to work till you're at least 72 because you're going to have to pay for your 20 years of retirement and move the date. I'm with you, 1,000,000%.
Yeah. Again, I mean, I think that needs to happen for people that are, let's pick a number like 57 and younger. We're going to move the age on you.
And I tell you, that's why, and I hope I've come across that way. I've represented that honestly in the podcast. Like, yeah, I voted for Trump. I think he's going to do some good things, but I'm not all in on the guy. I'm not happy with this bill. I think it's a piece of crap. I'm not happy that he didn't go all the way when he could. I mean, if anybody could, shake things up and do something crazy, it's him, and he won't do it. And that pisses me off.
Yeah. I mean, do you think it's because he won't or because he can't? Is this the deep state?
I mean, I'd love to have that conversation with Elon Musk. And I got to believe that's part of why he left Doge. Like surely they made recommendations to DOD to cut weapons systems, but that's so politically unpopular but then I don't get that, because it's like, well, Trump, you're not getting reelected, so who cares? Burn the place to the ground.
I think Musk gets the message from people pretty high up. It says, your chainsaw, go get the park rangers and USAID all day long. You can throw them under the bus all day long. We're not going to talk about Social Security. We're not going to talk about defense.
Right.
Whoa.
What's the point? No, and I'm with you. I was really optimistic about Doge. And at first, that's exactly what you said. You're like, they're just cutting stuff that is easy to cut. And I'm like, no, they're going to do this for 18 months. There's something big coming. I believed in it because I thought, okay, these are change agents. They could do something. But if you hit the deep state and nobody wants to cut the stuff that matters, it's like, I mean, at some point, you're not going to be able to pay the bill. Right? What happens then?
Well, the part that I worry about is, like, we've done okay. And even in these big deficits, in terms of, percentage of GDP, I mean, we've been worse. We were fighting global wars when it was worse, or we were trying to sew the nation back together after half of it left. And those are times when by the way, if you want to look at federal expenditures and what the government spent before and after the Civil War, that's when it all changed. Like, don't quote me, but federal expenditures between 1860 and 1865 went up something like 100-fold. It was unbelievable. Before the Civil War, we paid for the government off of, I don't want to say the T word.
Yeah, but it was minimal.
Well, what could you pay for with even really big tariffs right now? You could pay for USAID and park rangers. So, yeah, it's unsustainable. Not maybe in the short run, but the long run's what scares me, because what we're at risk of right now, we control our own interest rate. That's not we control interest rates because we have the Fed and they pick the rate, and people just suck it up, and they want to buy our bonds at whatever rate we tell them we're paying. It's a seller's market for U.S. bonds. There's a real risk that we saturate the market for.
Yeah.
And then it's like,
nobody wants to buy them. And then now
you're not paying enough. And so to get people to buy the bonds so that we can fund the government, we're going to have to pony up above market interest rates.
Yeah.
And then we don't control our destiny.
And China owns
the good
all the
news
bonds.
is, because we got the 10 aircraft carriers, if we want to go, like full Venezuela on the world, we just quit paying the bills.
Yeah. There's that.
Not
That's
recommended.
And then our bread it'll cost us $6,000 for a loaf of bread. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's almost like a theory. Is there anybody that, if they had the option, would not spend the money if they have the chance? And I think what we're seeing is every one of them will spend the damn money because it's easier.
Why is this a uniquely now problem, though? I mean, we've had, and I'm throwing Civil War numbers at you. It absolutely, this piece of the puzzle, the deficit spending, absolutely seems bipartisan right now and worse than it's ever been. And I wonder why that.
Yeah. Yeah. Where is the person that runs? Well, it's because, though, everybody wants crap. Like, where's the constituency that is like, I want less defense and less stuff. I want the government to do less. Like, I want the president who's going to show up at the State of the Union, instead of talk for an hour and a half about all the crap that they're going to do, they're like, hey, I'm going to make a bunch of cuts. This is going to be a 5-minute conversation. This is how it's going. Talk to you later. Like, no, we're not going to solve world peace. We're going to get rid of half this government that we don't need and all this spending we don't need. But it's like there's so many interest groups and constituents that everybody wants a little piece of something. It's just,
well, I think the polarization accelerates it too.
yeah.
And one of the things that happens in the polarized environment that, again, galls me beyond words is that the Democrats themselves kind of concede that, oh, Republicans are all for business. So this will surprise you, I think. I get really nervous when Democrats are all like, well, we're just doing things for the billionaires. We are, and I'm opposed to things that are particular call outs to make the very wealthy's life a lot easier. But it's a mistake for the Democrats to say, we're going to pit, it's a real mistake right now to say, we're going to pit working class against the wealthy, and we're going to fight that out. I don't know, I'm not going to explain this well what I mean, but like
what's weird about it is I feel like the Democratic Party is much more the party of the higher income people. I mean, it used to always be the Democrats were for the working class party. Well, the working class has gone to Trump, so the Democrat Party is more for the elites and the Ivy League types.
Well, and what it's meant is a lot less concern for, I mean, unions used to be the backbone of the Democratic Party. And like, I don't want to necessarily go back to that. Again, I will point out, at the time I was horrified by his personal morality, but Bill Clinton was the kind of Democrat we need right now. He was a Democrat who put Robert Rubin in charge of the Treasury Department. He's a Democrat who cut spending, who cut welfare spending, and balanced the darn budget. And that is ultimately, I really believe that deficits, excessive deficits, you're running deficits is not inherently a problem, but the kind of spending we've got right now, the ones that lose in that are the working class. Not the elites. The elites don't have much to lose in that. The working class are the ones that are going to lose in that deal. And it's going to drive income inequality worse in this country than it already is.
And everything else, yeah.
Yeah. Mortgages. Can you imagine what it's like trying to get a mortgage now if you're just starting out?
6.5%, crazy.
Yeah.
And everything, and the price of everything's gone up. Yeah, I don't know how you do it.
Well, this would be a whole nother episode. I don't know how many baby boomers we've got in our audience. We need some audience demographics before I go down the path that I'm thinking about in terms of not class warfare, but generational warfare. Not warfare. I don't mean warfare, but like there's a huge problem that Gen X is so much smaller than the boomers and the millennials. That's a big part of your actuarial problems with Social Security.
Nobody's back to the problem Elon keeps talking about. People aren't having enough babies, and we're not going to have we're not going to have enough workers in society. I mean, if everybody, we used to be 2.2 children, and now everybody has 0 or 1. It's all of a sudden the population shrinks way down.
It might be the only thing that J.D. Vance has said in the last 3 years that doesn't make me want to throw up. And even that, the way that he says it kind of makes me want to throw up. But you're right. The declining birth rate is a perilous problem for us. And what you're going to have is, like, over the next 20 years, we're going to take it on the chin in this country, because people like you and I, at the end of our careers, when we're trying to pack as much savings as we can, are going to get fleeced by the system to fund the Social Security benefits for the boomers who, because of all of our medical advances, are going to live 35 years in retirement. But that cycle, it will get a little better as the millennials kind of fully take on the full of their career. But behind them, it's terrifying what's going to happen to the birth rate.
Yeah.
It's almost as if, Kyle, it's almost as if there was a way, other than organic growth rate, if there was a way that you could get working people who could pay into Social Security and do the kind of jobs that we need, if there was some magical way that you could like import people who could actually do the things that we need in this country, we'd be all set.
Yeah, there you go. Just open the borders again. That sounds great.
Well, we got to have some kind of plan.
Well, don't know that that worked as well as we hoped. It's a good
By the way,
theory.
I'm not in favor of open borders, but one of the ways to fix the immigration problem is to make it a hell of a lot easier to emigrate to this country.
Peace. I'm with you 100%. It's ridiculous how hard it is, and that's why it makes illegal immigration such a great alternative. But if you can,
I saw somebody say, and I don't want to beat this horse, but I saw somebody say, isn't it interesting that if ICE is gonna go rounding up a bunch of immigrants, where they're not looking for people? At the food stamp handout, at the hospital getting free health care. No, they go to Home Depot and round up people who are looking for work. And I just the conventional wisdom about these immigrants are just soaking off our system. When people lie about their social security number and they're undocumented, you know what happens to that money? It goes to Social Security and it never gets paid out.
Yeah. Well, I think he's doing. Certainly, don't think Trump's doing a good enough job with the deportations. I mean, Obama had him beat way by a huge margin by this point, so he's going to have to do a lot more to catch up with Obama.
Well, again, I'm not opposed to deporting people that are here undocumented, but the how you do it matters.
So how'd Obama do 3 million in such a short period of time?
I don't know. Whatever he did, Obama was apparently more effective than Trump, and he didn't need to stage fake media events in big cities to just act like he's doing something.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're talking about, but
well, I'm talking about Kristi Noem in Los Angeles, and we're gonna pick a fight, and we're gonna incite riots, and then use the riot as an excuse to crack people's heads.
Yeah, I think that's a whole other path because I totally disagree that that's what happened, but that's not surprising. Yeah, I mean, that is, I mean, back to your point, I mean, the population goes down and everybody is, you're going to have this massive population on Social Security and nobody there to pay for them. So, but then, then it's funny because I didn't listen to the whole Joe Rogan Bernie Sanders thing, but Bernie Sanders went down the path of universal basic income. So I think there is this sense that AI is somehow going to solve all our productivity issues, and we're all going to be on Social Security and with a pacifier in our mouth. So, but what does that do for us? I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Like, and this whole other thing to go down, but like, is that healthy for people to retire at 62 and live for 40 years doing nothing?
No. No, it's not. But here's the deal. I'm about 10 years out from that. And I got to tell you, objectively, no, I think it's nuts. Objectively, should I be able to draw a significant amount of money in a pension from the government? I could start on Social Security 4 years from now.
I mean, I knew you were old, Kent, but I didn't know you were old.
That's the thing. I'm not that old.
Right.
That's the whole problem. But yeah, and thinking about that system, like, does that make any sense?
Right.
At the same time, I've worked pretty hard for the years that I've been at it. And
Play by the
so,
rules, and yeah, that's the rule. So I should get it right. People feel like the rug's getting ripped out from under them, but it's kind of, to me, the whole thing with universal basic income. Like, do you want to live in a society where nobody works? I don't know that that's good for anybody.
yeah, I mean, I don't think universal basic income is inherently the disincentive to work that people talk like it is. I mean, it's a disincentive to people working 20 hours a week at McDonald's. It's like, I'm probably better off with my job than quitting my job and going on universal basic.
Right.
I would hope that we're not, that those are the numbers that we're talking about. Again, I don't want to be argumentative, but the classic thing, yeah, in a macro sense, does raising income taxes disincent job creators from earning more money? Technically, but I don't know that anybody ever said, if my next marginal thing is another $1 million, but I only get to keep $500,000 of it, so I'm not even going to bother. Like, that doesn't make any sense. It's still $500,000. And so, like, it can be true in kind of a macro sense, but in a person by person sense, I don't see people. I don't see most middle class people saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going to take the $400 a week from the government. I'm going to put my feet up and coast."
Yeah.
One of the things in this book that I'm reading that I'm not going to give the producer to share because I think the guy's a jerk, but he said some people would rather make less money overall as long as they make more than the other guy than them making some higher dollar. Some people would be perfectly happy making 60 grand if everybody else made 50.
Right.
And
Yeah.
other people are like, well, you can make 70, but there are going to be people that make 100. And a lot of people, like way too many people, would make that other choice.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
How much that's a whole other ball of wax too. Like how much of our people's earnings aspirations are vanity versus need based. Yeah.
Big time. And especially we've seen that with technology. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what the fair level, oh my gosh, this sounds like an old guy just ranting about the past, but I was just thinking about this. We did not grow up in the little house on the prairie. However, our fairly prosperous family did not air condition the house until 20 years after I moved out. What constitutes expectation level has changed a lot over.
My 12-year-old who just got her first iPhone, there was a long conversation about and her pledge to save more money, which she did, because the next level up, something about the 0.5 magnification was a major differentiator in the phone that she selected over the other phone. So it's like, yeah, I guess what we're worried about.
We don't have first world problems. We've got 1% of the people in the first world
Exactly.
problems.
Wow.
Well, we should wrap this one, but we've kicked some stones that offer fodder for multiple future conversations.
Yeah, we did come up with a lot of different. Somehow we need to be taking some notes of this. We'll have to record some of these different ideas.
And well, part of the thing is that we agreed on the couple of the biggest headlines. We're
That's
kind of aligned
yeah.
on Iran and kind of aligned on the spending bill. It's just it's made it sort of anticlimactic. We've had to pick fights for
exactly.
No
we found like we were just picking on little fights that we could come up with because we agree too much.
Well, it's good to talk to you as always. And
Same.
We'll catch up with you soon.
Sounds good.
Hey, thanks for joining us on this episode of Bourbon and Rum Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us keep the good spirits flowing.
And we invite you to join this conversation. Follow us on our Facebook page. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear.
And until next time, cheers.